OK, well, communication's absolutely key. So the first port of call is just sit back and assess your situation. We're all in a big storm at the moment, aren't we, Steph? We may be on separate boats, but there's a lot going on. And if, as a parent, you are homeschooling and you are doing your day job, give yourself a break. It is difficult. You might be stuck in the kitchen trying to work. You might have constant interruptions throughout the day. Sit back and give yourself a break. Let your employer know, because if you don't tell them, they won't necessarily know how difficult it is for you. And once you've told them, you put your cards on the table and said, I'm really struggling to carry on, your employer's got a legal responsibility, not just for your physical health, but also for your mental health as well. Lots of employers have employee assistance programmes and other ways to help you. What they can't do is just sit back and ignore you. What they'll do is balance their business needs against what's going on with you. But you are first and foremost.
Yeah, because there's a duty of care, isn't there?
Absolutely.
So can you ask an employer then to change your hours if that's something that would make a difference?
Yeah, of course you can. You can go to your employer with a solution to your present problems of not being able to work during the day. So you might want to say, I want to work in the evenings when the kids have gone to bed, or certain afternoons where you've got some childcare assistance. So again, put that to your employer. Be creative with what you want to suggest to your employer and see if it works for them and their business. It may not work for everyone. So say, for example, you are an office worker. There's no point saying you want to do the work in the evening. It may not work. Look at the business and see if it works for you and your employer. We've all got to be fair to each other in this situation. What I would say is that's not for everybody. If you've homeschooled all day, the last thing you probably want to do is log on and do a full day's work. So think about whether that's a workable solution for you, because there are other options.
Yeah, and I suppose on the flip side of that, can an employer ask you to work on an evening because they know you're going to be distracted during the day with the kids?
Well, in theory, they can, but it's a change to your contractual hours, so they need your agreement to do that. So if they put it to you, think whether it's a viable solution to your problem, and if it is, take it. Again, we're working with each other, and lots of businesses are just trying to keep afloat during this difficult time. So I think it's really important to say, work together as employee and employer to reach a solution. But if it's not a workable solution for you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Just say, I'll be too tired after what's happened during the day. And if it's not workable, be honest.
And if you are someone who's working through the day and, you know, your kids are sometimes being heard in the background, perhaps, or, you know, as we've all seen now on lots of occasions, kids actually appear on the Zooms or whatever thing you're using, can your employer kick off with you about that?
It depends, doesn't it? It depends on whether or not it affects your ability to do your job. So, again, let's take the example of you work in a call centre and you're taking important calls, or you can't hear your customer, and you've got, you know, little Tommy having a music lesson in the background, or the kids crying, and you can't do your job properly. I think your employer's within their rights to then pull you up on that. But if it's just background noise, then I think that's unfair if an employer pulls you up. So again, look at your situation. If there are certain times of the day that'll work better for you, where you can take calls, cards on the table approach, work with your employer to come up with a solution.
Now, often, whenever you're giving this fab advice, you always say, don't you, communication is key. But what if you can't come to an agreement, an informal agreement with your employer? What can you do?
And it may just be the job that you do, it's not workable for you to work on different hours. So there are options for you. There are 3 options that you've got. The first of which is you can't do your job, you can take dependent leave. The downside to that is it's unlikely to be paid, so you just stop work for that period. Number 2 is you use your annual leave during this period. But again, we know schools are off till at least the middle of February, so again, that might not be workable, but it's an option. Number 3 is furlough. You can ask your employer to furlough you because you can't do your job. Lots of people get hung up on the fact that the furlough scheme is there for businesses that are closed or work that is not there to be done. But if you can't do your job because of the pandemic and coronavirus and the fact that you've got kids at home, then you can ask to be furloughed. The scheme's running till April, so if you do want to get on it, it's time to hold your hand up now.
And who's eligible for that then?
OK, so furlough, remember, your employer has to agree to it as well. It's at the employer's discretion whether or not they agree to the furlough scheme. But if they do, across the board, if you can't do your job due to coronavirus, you're eligible for it. Your employer gets 80% of your salary from the government, up to a maximum of £2,500. You can part-time, you can full-time furlough, fixed-term employees, fixed contract employees, apprentices, they're all eligible. It's just if you can't do your job as a result of the coronavirus. It runs till April, and I know it's constantly changing, this scheme. The present one's been in place for a while, so if you do want to be furloughed, just speak to your employer about that.
Yeah, but they don't have to say yes to it, do
They don't have
They
to...
really need you doing the work.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think I've said this throughout, there are lots of businesses struggling out there at the moment. So, you know, if you can work during that period, just do the best that you can. But mental health is very, very important, and every employer wants you to keep your sanity rather than struggling during this time. So work with your employers to come up with a solution.